There's this common assertion that our grandmothers were very unhappy and very miserable in their unions. That the only reason why our grandparents' marriages lasted lifetimes and beyond is because our miserable grandmothers didn't have choice. That our grandmothers were not only forced to marry men they didn't want, but they were also forced by both society and biology to stay in marriages. Quickly, from a biological standpoint, the fact that our grandmothers didn't have access to reliable contraception meant that marriage confined them to the home, with all the unpaid labor and the domestic work. Apart from the biological dimension that explains the allocation of gender roles, the social perspective, founded on nothing but discrimination, made sure that women didn't have access to economic opportunities, couldn't even have bank accounts, and didn't even participate in public or civil life. The baseline for most of these arguments is pretty simple. Marriages lasted before because women didn't have choice. That if our grandmothers did actually have choice, then they wouldn't have put up with our grandfathers.
The babies?
No.
Why is that?
If you didn't want to sleep with them, you didn't have a choice. Your job was to cook, clean up, keep house, take care of kids. If you want to go somewhere you can't go, you got to stay and keep the kids.
And they sure wasn't still use no condoms, huh?
No, and if you want to go somewhere, you have to keep the kids. You can't go. I'm going so and so place. When am I going? You have to cook.
So what? This wasn't a law. This was just something that your moms or grandmamas, that they just passed this on, and that's how it was, and how men felt they should be.
You had to sleep with them. If they go out and lay out all night, you had to get up and cook and sleep with them. The biggest fight I had when my husband come home after 12 o'clock at night. I've been to church with the kids and cooked dinner, and he was in there rattling pots and pans. So the next Sunday when we got out of church, I went to my mama's and had dinner. So he said, in there rattling pots and pans after 12 o'clock on Sunday night, where's the food? I said, what food?
Yeah.
I ain't cooking no more. Ain't nobody here with me and the kids. We eat with our mama every Sunday. You gonna get up and cook now? I said, oh, no, we're not.
Right.
And I didn't cook. And he never tried to make me cook no more either.
Okay.
But his mama was mad at me because she thought I was gonna kill him. My sister-in-law said, boy, she mad at me and you. I said, why? Cause we got the best of them.
Oh, so he tried to fight you and y'all whooped him?
Yeah.
Over you not cooking?
That's right. I said, I ain't cooking. You ain't making me cook.
And you still didn't cook?
No. And after then, I would go to church with my mom and the kids, and I'd go to her house. And Mother always liked to have a dinner for Christmas.
So that's like how that stick got started. Like men think that you're being disrespectful and you're not being in a woman's place.
Yeah, like when you marry them, you somebody got to have the house clean, the kids clean, and they food cooked as if they, like in Color Purple.
Yeah.
When Celie left, his old daddy come over and had the goats and everything, chickens in the house. Said, you need to clean this place up. You need to get you a young woman that's able to clean and cook and clean this place up.
One they could force.
Yeah. And women did it because they had to. They beat on some of them. They didn't do it. But women got to beating them back.
And now that's why we are now. Like, we ain't accepting that.
And we ain't
equal.
And we ain't going back.
That's right, baby. I'm proud of you.
Takes like these are used to demonize marriage, or whatever it has historically been, as some sort of dungeon that our grandmothers were unable to escape because mostly of financial constraints fashioned by the patriarchy to keep women subdued in the home.
Fought so hard for their rights.
That's right.
And they wasn't settling for being beat up no more.
That's right.
In your own home.
Yeah, sit there and cook and clean.
So not only they protected, they said they were protecting kids too.
Yeah.
So they were hitting on kids like that too, I heard.
Yeah. And they didn't know, and you didn't know where your husband was. And it wasn't your business. You couldn't make him tell you where you going. Oh, I just ride around the boys. I said, you should have married the boys then. I didn't marry to stay home and cook and clean. But I did the best I could because I figured it was my job because I helped had them too. Because
the picture wasn't painted like that in front of you with your mom and dad, was it?
No. My daddy got on work. He come home every weekend. Now he go out and hang with the boys on the weekend. But he walked by that porch, and me and my sister be sitting on one end, my mom be sitting on the other end. He called her M because her name was Minnie.
Mm-hmm.
He said, here M. He had Mama that check and keep going. Mom wouldn't say a word.
Mm-hmm.
She said, well, he just got to go up and hang out with the boys. He said, but he ain't carrying that check. Said, my kid's going to eat next week.
Mm-hmm.
She said, when that check get here, I'm going to town and pay the bills and buy enough groceries to last us till next week. And he better come back here with that check.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way my kid's going to eat all week next week.
And then, so I guess that's why it hurt that you ended up marrying a man that didn't give an example like your daddy did.
He going to control me. And I wasn't going to be controlled.
Right, you weren't raised like that.
Mama said, Bill said, you know he going to be mad if you ain't home. I said, I don't care, Mama.
Right.
I said, he ain't going to treat me like Daddy did you. Daddy said, yeah, you need to go home with the kids because he'll be mad if you ain't home as Daddy. He ain't going to treat me like you did Mama. Just stay gone all the time and Mom be there when you get there. I ain't going to be there.
Right.
I'm coming over here. Yeah.
And you meant that. And you did that.
Yeah.
Look at you today.
According to takes like this, marriage, at least in its traditional form, is very unnecessary for women at best, and plain slavery for women at the worst. Slavery in the sense, women spend their best years slaving away for men who are busy building their careers, instead of being outside building their careers too or living their best lives.
I ain't gonna have to ask him, can I go to Mama? Can I go to town and go to the grocery store and pick this? I'm not gonna do that way. I refuse to be that way.
Go see their own parents? Permission to go see their mama from their husband?
I know some women say that some of them locked the doors when they left and wouldn't unlock the door till they got back home. I said, don't you know how to break a door down or break a window out?
What you mean lock them in?
Yeah. Yeah.
Shit.
There ain't nobody locking me in. I said, can't that window break?
Right.
You
Bust it down.
And that's what you did, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You took after your grandmama, didn't you?
I did.
But now, I would do this. I make sure I bathe those kids, get them up, fed them their breakfast, bathe them, fed them their lunch, and fish in between snacks. I kept the floors. My cousin said, when I come to your house, your kitchen floor is always clean up to eat off.
Spotless.
And said, your kitchen is spotless. I said, well, I got to clean. I said, I feed my kids. They're not big enough to feed themselves. 3 times a day, and then snacks in between. And I said, as soon as I get through feeding them, first thing I do is pull their clothes off and get a warm water and sponge them down, get all the food off of them, put them on clean clothes. And I give them something to play to keep them busy while I clean up the kitchen. And I said, I take Pine Sol and water and detergent and wash their kitchen floor up.
Right.
And wash my mop out and have it ready for the next time.
Takes like these often push for the modern form of marriage that has become entirely individualistic, with the collective good of the family, the children, and the society being secondary. That unless the marriage is centered on the woman and serving every last one of her interests, then it is just plain slavery. That everything the woman does in the context of the home is sacrifice, while everything the man does is his job. The whole argument that our grandmothers stayed in their marriages because they didn't have choice is delusional at best, and plain idiotic at the worst, for a wide range of reasons. For instance, if we were to look at marriage as a punishment of some sorts, marriage was meant to punish the man more than the woman. Look at it this way. Shotgun marriages throughout human history until around the 60s and 70s with the onset of the sexual revolution, which was set in motion with the invention of contraception in the 60s, the legalization of abortion in the 70s, and the normalization of the hookup culture. The revolution meant that people could engage in sexual activity with little to no consequences. Prior to the revolution, the cost of sex for women was pregnancy, while the cost of sex for men was commitment, through shotgun marriage. That before a man had access to female nudity, they had to exhibit pro-social achievements, that is, have a stable income and have pro-familial values, and give the woman guarantees of commitment. Women, who are primarily the gatekeepers of sex, sought commitment before they engaged in sexual activity. Subsequently, if sexual activity resulted in pregnancy, then the man was compelled to marry the woman, essentially providing the resultant offspring with the benefit of being raised in a two-parent household. We won't go into the problem with single-parent households, especially those households headed by women, in this video. From the current perspective, marriage made sure women attained reproductive success, that them and their offspring got the benefit of a proper family. The fact that our grandmothers restricted sex to long-term committed relationships meant that they effectively managed to tame the destructive male sexual energy, effectively transforming it into human capital, essential for things such as the Industrial Revolution or globalization, as men had to work. There's solid evidence pointing to the fact that virgin brides have the greatest likelihoods of forming stable unions and having happy marriages. In contrast, every sexual partner a woman has reduces their likelihood of having a happy marriage. Every year a woman delays sexual activity, her chances of having a stable union increases. Most of our grandmothers never went into marriage with baggage from previous relationships, including children, hence their marriages did last. How then did marriage become slavery for women? For you to see traditional marriage as slavery, you have to subscribe to two foundational thought processes. First is something we have referenced in this video, that everything the woman does in the family is sacrifice, while everything the man does is his job. That we should be celebrating the woman for attending to her responsibilities in the home, while consistently reminding men that we can't be celebrating a fish for learning how to swim. From a traditional sense, whatever they call unpaid labor from the woman doesn't exist without uncompensated resources from the man. She cares for the children in a home he pays for, she cooks meals from the groceries he has provided, and she cleans the home with utilities whose bills he has paid. She puts in the time, he puts in the resources, she believes she does more for the home than he does. She's not the only one who believes this, by the way, because even the courts do. The moment she files for divorce, part of the settlement is the court enforcing everything he brought to her and the family, while they don't enforce anything she brought to him. When women argue that they should be paid for housework, because it is often paid for, their basic logic is, the woman doesn't have any responsibility in the household, hence they should be compensated like we would a third party to whom housework is outsourced, and her contributions are the only important and relevant ones. A common take you'll hear in this context is this: providing is not enough if the man doesn't put in the emotion work into the whole thing.
This is the biggest thing that men get wrong in marriage. Some men think that they don't have to do household chores. That's the wife's responsibility. The wife is going to resent a husband who doesn't help, who doesn't cook, who doesn't do laundry, who doesn't help with the kids. That resentment will lead to the end of your marriage. Even if you make all the money for the family, you still got to contribute at home. You still got to help your wife out at home. As a divorce lawyer, I can't tell you how many times I've heard these complaints from my female clients.
The number one mistake men make in a marriage from a divorce lawyer: a spouse who never participates in household chores often breeds resentment in the other spouse. There's not going to then be one incident that results in some extreme fight that ends the marriage. It's a slow burn. So my advice to you guys out there, if you want to stay married, empty the dishwasher every once in a while.
Being a stay-at-home mom is a job. Being a stay-at-home wife is a job. Taking care of the house while your husband provides for you is a job. So when a woman stays at home while her husband provides for her and isn't working, she is working, and her husband is covering the cost of that work. When you pay a nanny to take care of your kids, when you drop your kids off at daycare and pay the daycare, when you pay a housekeeper or a house manager to take care of the house, that's considered work. All of the work that those people are doing is considered work. But when a woman who stays at home does it, it's not work. No, it very much is work, and it's hard work. So when a woman's dating around and she's specifically looking for a provider, she's not saying, I'm not going to work at all, I don't want to work, and I just want to lay around all day. No, she's simply saying her house, her kids, her husband is going to be her work. So the slander against women who don't want to contribute to the mortgage, help their husband financially contribute to the mortgage, is really funny, because they are contributing to the mortgage or whatever household payments through their labor at home. And the kicker is, the women who do go into office are often working two jobs. They're in office job and they're at home job. Stop the disgusting talk against women who want to make their housework their full-time work.
How come even when I help her around the house, she's still not grateful? Well, it could be a number of different things. I think we need the clipboard. Where are you finding clipboards? First question, are the dishes and loading and unloading the dishwasher and sweeping the floor and preparing meals for the family, are those mutual chores? What does that have to do with it? Well, unless you've collectively decided that those are all her chores, then when you do them occasionally, you're not actually helping her. How so? Because when you say you're helping her or you did a chore for her, it incorrectly assumes that it's all her responsibility. So you contributing at all is going above and beyond, right? Question, do you thank her every time she does a mutual chore? No. Then why do you expect a thank you when you do one? Well, it would just be nice if she was grateful for the effort I was putting in. Do you think it's possible that she might feel the same way about the effort she's putting in? I don't know. I think it's really important that we're both grateful and appreciative towards each other, but we have to be very careful because so often women are taught that regardless of whether they work or not, the entire household is their responsibility. I mean, if both of you stopped doing the mutual chores and the house was a mess and your family came over, who would they blame that it's messy? Probably her, yeah. Because it's her job, isn't it? She's the project manager and the project executor. The reason she might not be expressing gratitude is because she feels slightly insulted that you want to thank you for doing a mutual chore that you don't even thank her for doing the lion's share of. Can you see how maybe that would feel unappreciative or neglectful? Stupid clipboard.
When was the last time you said thank you to your wife? When was the last time you showed appreciation for all the sacrifices she's making for you and your marriage? When was the last time you said thank you? Your wife takes good care of you, takes good care of your home, the children, meets your needs, makes sacrifices for you, and you have never said thank you. You take our sacrifices for granted, our effort for granted. You have never for once said thank you. Not a thank you text, not gifts, nothing. You don't acknowledge our effort. But as soon as she makes one mistake, you go on ranting and complaining. You become very harsh to her. Mr. Femi, you need to change. It is time for you to appreciate your wife. Learn to appreciate your wife. Learn to acknowledge her efforts, verbally and otherwise. Say thank you to her. Send her text. Buy her gifts. Create time for her. Treat her specially as often as you can. And be kind to her daily because she deserves it. You are welcome.
You married?
Yes.
Cool. Is he happy?
That's a weird question. Usually they ask if I'm happy.
Yeah, but like, it's a different kind of an interview. I'm just, because he's not here, like, I want to show my care for him as well. Is he happy? Your answer is yes, no? You don't want to answer that question?
No.
I think it's okay. I think we got the answer.
Who we?
That's me and the camera guy. You got it, bro?
Well, fuck. Are men not people? Are they not human beings like us women? Are they not deserving of love, care, and affection? Are they not deserving of, the feeling of being appreciated, the feeling of being seen, and the feeling of being heard? This is the question I have today because after I posted yesterday's video, I had quite a few people, some who even had the audacity to come into my inbox to tell me, no, you're not supposed to do that, I just shared myself packing because I had planned a weekend getaway, right? And, it was a surprise and everything like that. And some people felt like I was doing too much. And there was someone who said, no, why would you do such a thing? Why would you, at women who use their own money to do such things, what's wrong with you? You should let him spoil you, let the men spoil you, whatever. Now, for me, that came off very much like a leech. Like you're always just getting and getting and getting. You never give back. Now, obviously, I've always said here, like in terms of my personal life, I have only shared probably less than 10% of what actually goes on in my life. So when I share with you small snippets of what I'm doing, doesn't mean I've shown you the full picture, right? And now my question is, why do you feel as if men should not receive appreciation? Men should not receive, for lack of a better term, pampering or spoiling or whatever it is. You are the only one who should receive it. Why? I have a bunch, I have a good number of gentlemen that follow me. Gentlemen, let me know, do you feel appreciated by your partners? Let's do a survey. Do you feel appreciated by your partners? Let me know in the comment section, yeah? And I don't know if you guys remember, last year, I did a challenge with you guys. I said, today, just text your man and tell him thank you for being an amazing husband or an amazing boyfriend or whatever. Like, just say thank you, right? And a lot of you guys came back and you said your man was like, what do you want? What's wrong? You know, that kind of thing. Which made us realize that we don't say thank you enough, such that the moment we say thank you, he thinks that you want something or you need something and you're trying to butter him up before you can ask for it. But even when it's someone's duty, right? Because we have these duties that we have in our homes. Even if it's someone's duty, them feeling appreciated is important. Even you, when he says, thank you for the T-bone, it was really nice. Don't you feel good? You probably feel good. Or he tells you, thank you for how you take care of the children. They're always clean, bathed and all of that stuff. You feel good. But have you also said thank you to him for what he does? Not just all the time you're complaining, asking for stuff. What have you done to show appreciation to this person? We become too familiar with each other in these relationships to the point where we just think, my doesn't have cheater. Your wife is the one who cooks every day, so you don't even care to say thank you for cooking. Thank you for this, because we think it's just your duty, so what? But every person, even if they're operating within their duties, they want to feel seen, they want to feel appreciated. Saying thank you, the words thank you is good. Say it to your partner, say it to your man. Say thank you, babe, for this. He does something for you, say thank you. It's different when you're not in the capacity to do certain things for him. But when you're in the capacity, he will now start questioning. To me, I'm always doing things for this girl. I'm always spoiling her, splurging and all of that stuff. How come she's never even bought a vest for me? Because that's how a lot of you operate in these relationships. You're just on the receiving end. And you think that if you give back to your man, Ninshi, you've stopped being a woman. I don't know what you think. But we talk about reciprocating. Reciprocating is important. You give me, I give you. You give me, I give you. Even you, if you don't receive and you're always giving, you feel bad. You feel like you're being taken advantage of. You feel like you're being used. Not by him, he can't feel that. No, I'm tired. I'm tired of this, ungrateful nature that we've started cultivating amongst the ladies. We're being ungrateful just because we think, no, me, I deserve princess treatment. Princess treatment doesn't mean that number you is just getting and getting and getting and getting. That's why last time I told you, Nati, Dodix is not a present. It does not qualify as a birthday present. It does not qualify as an anniversary present. Find an actual present. Listen to what he's saying. Akakambat, nimafuna kutea kwa game. Those, if you're married to a gamer like me, you'll find that game. If you know how to order on Amazon, order on Amazon. Get that game. Chapwa. Iwa ukakambat, I like this hue. He buys that hue for you. But if ukakambat, I like this, you can't get it. We need to be reciprocating. Show each other love. It doesn't matter what gender you are. You all want to feel appreciated. You all want to feel loved. You want to feel seen. So, all I wanted to say on this here video is that show appreciation, show love. Make sure that your partner knows that you see them and you hear them. And this is especially going to the ladies, because we are the ones who like just saying, my husband is the bunch. When you have the capacity, do something good for your man. Chapwa. Unless maybe it's one of those situations where he's not a good man. He's not a good man, Savannah. If he's not, then I don't know what you're going to do. But if he is a good man and he has been taking care of you, taking care of your kids, all of that stuff, making sure your life is as comfortable as it can get, please show some appreciation.
My husband doesn't cook or clean, and he still an amazing husband. Here's why. He's a provider. He makes sure that all of our bills are paid, that we have all the food that we need, the clothes that we need, and we are always taken care of. Number 2, he cares about my emotional, spiritual, and physical well-being. Not just mine, but our babies too. And number 3, he's fun. He loves to take us on little adventures, and he loves to get us little treats and do so many fun things with us.
Basically, a man paying all the bills is not enough because that's the bare minimum, but a woman doing all the housework is not only more than enough, she should be placed on a pedestal for it. This gender believes that a man should be paying 100% of the bills and still come home and help with the housework. That's what they call the second shift in women, by the way, and they say it is very draining, but only for women because men should do it effortlessly.
Invisible? In this house. Cleaning. Just taking out the bins. Am I a maid? You alright, Mum? Yeah, fine. Why?
If you want a traditional wife, then be a traditional man. You cannot ask for stay-at-home wifey privileges if you don't have stay-at-home wifey money. You want me to clean the kitchen? I'm happy to clean the kitchen. If I get to wake up at 10, I get to clean the kitchen, I get to go lounge by the pool, and then you come home at night. Like, sure, no problem. But if I'm waking up at the crack of dawn with you, we're both going to our 2 very demanding jobs, and then coming home, don't ask me for anything you're not willing to do.
Picture your girl coming home from work, a 9 to 5, right? You also came from work, a 9 to 5. We both got to the house. I barely put my stuff down. I start cooking. While I'm cooking, I'm cleaning around the house. I'm cleaning the bathroom. I'm doing laundry, right? The food is finally ready. At this point, I'm shaking because I'm starving and I want to eat.
And you haven't stopped. You haven't had a moment to breathe.
And you're laying down in bed already watching TV, right?
And then I'm supposed to be happy.
Right. And then, now the food is finally ready, and now I have to serve the food, take it like a king to your fucking bedroom, and then I get to eat after you?
All I have to say is literally fuck out of my face.
So you're telling me that a woman has to go work like a man every day, and a man goes work and he's tired when he gets home. A woman's not tired. She has to clean, cook, do the dishes, do the laundry. Are you kidding me?
Why don't you want to do that?
What are you talking about? Why don't I want to do that? You know how fucking tiring that is? Have you done that?
First of all,
I
do it every day.
First of all, do not choose a woman who don't want to be a woman.
Right.
So you don't want to be a
pause,
woman.
I just
No,
let
you don't want to
I
be
just
a
let you talk.
woman.
Yelling doesn't mean you're winning an argument. It's a sign of low intelligence. You can lower your voice and speak to me. I'm sitting right here. I can hear you. So all this, I cook and I clean, and yeah, that's part of your function. But when your tire is flat, my function is to make sure you have a new tire.
But
when
that's
your
what
car
I'm
need an
saying.
oil change, it's my job to make sure these people ain't ripping you off. We have different duties and functions and responsibilities. And if you don't love your duty, your function, your responsibility, you're not fit to be a wife, period.
Y'all, so here's the thing. My husband works 2 jobs, and he works 64 hours a week. Has like 1 day off. And within that 1 day, I want him to go outside with us, like me, Sophie, and him, and I want us to have a family day. But he wants to stay home and spend time with us. But I don't want that. I want us to be outside. And I'm upset with him because we don't go outside and do activities as a family. Am I being reasonable, or am I being a bad wife?
I've never hated another person more than I hate the person that I married. He goes to work. Yeah, his job's hard. Yeah, his hours suck. He works. That is all he does. Yeah, I don't work, but the amount of weight I carry, I can tell you why I've stayed. Money. It's that simple. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom.
My husband left the night that I posted that original video.
Yes! Hell yeah! Hey, come on, baby! Come on! Yes! Come on! I don't think you realize how much work I put in to do that.
To cuddle?
No, for your family. I woke up at 8 in the morning and went to the grocery store and had to hunt down a bunch of stuff, figure out the grill, do all that was work. And after that, I came back and did the dishes. If you sat here and grilled a whole meal for my whole family and I come back to dishes in the sink, I'm not gonna ask you to do the dishes. I'm probably just gonna do them. Maybe I didn't communicate that, sure. However, if I have to communicate that, I am not the one for you.
Do not try to make it seem like I'm not here doing my part at all. We're not gonna spin it like that. I've been given such a negative response, a temper tantrum sometimes, like an attitude. I just don't understand it. If it's about the dishes, me going to sleep, a text, all of that, it's the slap in the face.
I'm glad you feel that way. There's a lot I could respond to, but there is no scenario that I see myself standing there and saying yes to making you my wife forever. And with that in mind, I'm glad we can at least agree that I don't ever want to see you again.
How many hours do you work, Eric?
60 hours a week.
60 hours a week. And how many hours do you work at home?
The same. More. All day, all night.
Really? And then you woke up and realised you were dreaming, you mean?
But my day doesn't end sometimes.
What do you mean your day don't end? It don't bloody begin. You spent time on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
You spent time just walking around the house, up and down. You spent time walking back and forth from a dining table with your kids. I don't know what you do with your hours. But I tell you one thing as a woman, if my husband's working, I do want to make sure that I'm doing what I should be doing at home. And if now I'm making you think about that, because this is the first time I've seen you become emotional, because it's the first time you've even had to sit and think about your actions. You're right.
I just saw this video of this girl basically saying that her man pays all her bills and all she has to do is cook and clean and do his laundry and stuff like that. And a whole bunch of bitter hosts in the comments talking about he gets to come home and relax after working and you have to do all that. How the fuck do y'all bitches live in filth? How long do y'all think it takes to cook and clean a house? And laundry is not an everyday task, so how long do y'all think that takes? Y'all done let these bitter ass internet hoes convince y'all that if you don't have housekeepers and fucking cleaners and shit like that, that you're not living a life of, I guess, I wouldn't say luxury, but that it's not worth it. It literally does not take that long. The time that he spends working and the time that I spend cleaning and cooking is not even comparable. Y'all let these hoes on the internet that hate men and never had somebody that actually wants to take care of them convince y'all that that is not an easy life when it quite literally is. Then somebody in the comments was like, you are literally a human pet. That ain't what they said, but it was something along those lines. And it's like, y'all, you have to cook and clean anyway. You have to do that even without a man. You have to do laundry anyway. So like, it's not that hard. And they say, well, if you have kids, I forgot what the fuck they said about the kids, but it's still not that hard, even with kids. Like, and most of the time, if you do have a good man, now this is where it gets tricky with the kids. A man that is a good man is going to help you with them kids when he gets home. Now, them trifling husbands, yeah, they do leave all the work for the kids too, but it's still not that hard. Y'all gotta stop listening to the internet. These people are bitter.
Women today will dead ass look a man straight in the face and tell him that him paying all the bills and allowing her to stay home and not work is not good enough. We'll say stupid shit like, just because you worked all day don't mean that you can come home and not help me with the chores. It will be dead ass serious. Like, bitch, I hope both sides of your pillow is hot as fuck every single night. Because pretty much what you're saying to these men is that, hey, I know you work like 8, 10, 12-hour shifts. You might even work 2 jobs in order to fully provide and allow me to be able to stay home. And I know you worked outside in the scorching heat or the freezing cold or in an office with motherfuckers that you can't stand and want to punch in the face on a daily basis, but you can't do that because then where would we live? And I know that you paid the mortgage and the car payments and the insurance and the phone bill and the internet and you pay for the groceries and all that. I got that. And I know that you miss out on spending time with our kids, and there's a lot of things that you probably miss, like their first steps or their first words, because you were at work. But I had to clean the house, even though I know I was able to do it at my own pace, and I got to sit down and take a break whenever the fuck I felt like it, because I don't have a supervisor here telling me how fast I need to work. But I also had to fold the laundry, even though I know that I was able to do it in front of the TV while I watched the Kardashians. But when you get home, I still want you to wash the dishes and help me do all the other shit around the house. Even though you're 100% taking care of your responsibilities in this relationship, I still want you to take care of some of mine.
That's literally what y'all are saying to these men. And fellas, I don't understand how y'all don't crash the fuck out. Because the way I would look her straight in her face and be like, ho, fuck you and them dishes. Listen to me. Stop letting these women manipulate you into thinking that in order for you to be considered a good man, you have to do your part and her part. You're taking all of the financial burdens and responsibilities off of her shoulders, and she won't take nothing off of yours? Baby, no. Leave that bitch right where she at.
If you are a woman of leisure, you don't have responsibilities. Your responsibility is being a woman of leisure. If you are a housewife, you maintain and you manage the house. That's not a fucking reward. It's a job. Whether it's only 20 hours a week, it's still a job.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it because y'all act like the men are wrong whenever they say it. Ladies, a lot of y'all are just lazy as fuzznuck, okay? The type of housewife that y'all are trying to get credit for is not what being a housewife is really like today. Y'all not putting in the type of work that they had to put in as a housewife back in the day. Like, y'all trying to act like it's still the 1940s or some shit. Back then, when housewives had to wash clothes, baby, they was washing them clothes by hand and hanging them out to dry. They was tending to gardens and shit to get the fruits and vegetables that they needed to cook with. When they cooked, oh baby, they was cooking. I'm talking about from scratch. They was cleaning chickens and making homemade dough and shit like that. And them floors was dirty. They was down on their hands and knees cleaning. See, they were doing an actual job. Our shit is on autopilot now. You can put some damn meat, potatoes, and vegetables in the fucking crock pot, set that shit on low, and forget about it until dinner time. You need to wash some clothes, you just throw them bitches in the washing machine, and the time it takes for them to wash and dry, you can be doing some other shit. We not sitting there scrubbing all the dishes by hand no more. We have dishwashers. We put them bitches in the dishwasher, put some soap in it, press start, and go on about our fucking business. Hell, I can't remember the last time I went to somebody's house and I didn't see one of them fucking Roombas. Them damn robot vacuum cleaners, so y'all not vacuuming. Hell, really the only women who have a valid argument are the ones who have little bitty babies. But eventually, your kids get to the age where they at school all day. And then eventually, them kids get to the age where they gonna be helping you clean the fucking house. Y'all remember them damn Saturday chores we was doing? Y'all can get mad all y'all want to. Y'all can call me a pick-me. I already know. I already know that the comments is coming. But I'm tired of y'all trying to get credit for being the type of housewife that don't even fucking exist no more.
What does a man do? When you have children, you always have family. They will always be your priority, your responsibility. And a man provides. And he does it even when he's not appreciated or respected or even loved. He simply bears up and he does it because he's a man.
I just want to point out to you snaggletooth sumbitches who decided that in the comments of one of my videos where I was praising my husband for being a good man, where you guys were like, you're obsessed with him. You should really figure out how to not be around him like that because it's good to be independent. Fuck you. You bitches don't even have a man. So if I want to be a husband's girl, because that's what I am, I'm all about my man, my man, my man. Do you understand? Then I'm going to do that. If I decide to get up on here and praise him because he decided to take care of me the way that God sees fit, then I will. And you sorry, miserable bitches can suck my ass cheeks from left to right and then in a fucking circle. And then after, matter of fact, you can kiss my ass 2 ways to Sunday and twice on a motherfucking Monday. All right? Because at the end of the day, I don't understand for the life of me what type of miserable bitch you have to be to decide to go to somebody's video where they are happily married to a person who loves them and then spew such hatred and vitriol. It makes 0% of fuck all sense to me. So, I'm gonna go back in and kiss up and love up on my husband because I have a man. Have a day.
For the record, if a man providing is not enough because children need time with their father, very reasonable by the way, then a woman doing all the housework is not enough because children need resources. If a man can't tell a woman what bills to pay in the home because that's his job, how can a woman tell the man what chores he should do in the home? In what world does that make sense really? The second foundational thought process you have to believe to view marriage as slavery for women is that nothing is more important to a woman, especially the modern woman, than choice. That the moment you take away a woman's choice, then she's in bondage. As mentioned before, these takes seek to demonize traditional marriage by arguing that our grandmothers didn't have choice. If choice is such a good thing for women, then we should be seeing modern free women being happier than our grandmothers. If choice was all that good for women, how comes women have never been more free than they are today, yet they're the most miserable they've ever been? Enter the paradox of declining female happiness. More freedom has come with more misery for women. This phenomenon is always tied to the fact that choice in general makes people miserable, and women are not exempted from this. The explanation for this is very simple. You see, that traditional woman they say was miserable because she didn't have choice. That woman based her happiness and life fulfillment on the family's well-being. Staying at home meant that her family was all she focused on, and if the family was okay, then she was okay. For the modern woman who is supposed to be more free and happier, she has to base her happiness on lots of things. If she chooses the strict feminism path of decentering men and focusing on her career, then she has to compete with men in the workplace, and has to deal with the fact that her male colleague is paid more just for being a man and she's paid less for being a woman. She also has to deal with the glass ceiling that's a product of the sexist work practices and discrimination, and when she gets to the top, she has to deal with the glass cliff, the fact that she was put there because everything was going down.
The term glass cliff refers to a situation in which women are promoted to higher positions during times of crisis or duress, or during a recession when the chance of failure is more likely. Put simply, women in these situations are set up for failure.
The Arab MENA region is no stranger to conflict. Businesses and organizations are in a constant struggle of surviving and thriving in war-torn and economically volatile countries. As a result, we sometimes see women elevated into positions of power when things are going poorly, a phenomenon we refer to as the glass cliff. A relative of the glass ceiling, the glass cliff is a metaphor for when women are offered leadership positions when things are going badly. The glass cliffs put promising female leaders in precarious positions where they have a higher likelihood of failure, meaning there is a greater risk for them to fall off the cliff. As HR decision makers, especially in conflict or post-conflict countries such as Lebanon, Iraq, and Libya,
I think that women CEOs get greater scrutiny. I mean, the media tends to love women CEOs. We focus on them a lot because they're interesting and not the norm. But do you think that, or do you think it really depends on the person in the role?
I think it depends on the person in the industry and whatnot. And it's interesting because sometimes people ask me, are we successful because we have a lot of women at Ulta Beauty and we cater, we have a lot of women guests? And I'm like, absolutely not. I think we're successful because we have a great business model. And we have a diverse leadership team, diversity all up and down the board, and that is what matters. So while I'm proud to be a female CEO, that's who I am, I'm also proud about the fact that I'm leading a company that's quite diverse. And I'm very optimistic actually about that we can keep gaining on this, even though it absolutely is going to take a while.
Let me put this to Jen. This is something we've written about, you write about in this story. Are women, the glass cliff, women being sort of set up to fail? Is this a thing?
It is a thing, and I'm sorry to say it is a thing. And sometimes it's self-selected, because an interesting thing that we found is that women come up through the ranks often by taking the toughest job. And they may volunteer for the job that other people don't want. They may really just relish the challenge. But what ends up happening, regardless of gender, is that their resumes become the turnaround person, the problem fixer. And so they're more qualified to get those jobs. But then they get named to those jobs. They have very high profiles as women. And then if they don't succeed, then there's sort of a confirmation bias. Oh, well, we put her in that job and she didn't make it.
And it's a lot harder to succeed in those jobs. I mean, that's
by definition
right,
it is.
Right.
And so that's what we call the glass cliff. You sort of inch your way up there and then you slide off of it, and it actually can harm other people.
Research has also shown that companies appointing women to their boards were more likely to perform poorly. In 2013, researchers found that occupational minorities are more likely than white men to be promoted as corporate CEOs that perform poorly. Female CEOs are also more likely to be targeted by activist investors.
For the average woman, however, her happiness is based on how well she can balance family and work life. She has to have a successful or progressive career, she has to be a good mother and wife, and most of all, she has to do all this while looking good, competing with fellow women who don't have to balance as much. The result? Being the most miserable they've ever been, with the choice that they crave for. When kids arrive, the woman has three choices: either quit employment and channel all her energy towards the family, which is something a third of American women do, out of choice by the way, which is why they wouldn't or don't have as much of a problem with it now, but they still do. She could decide to completely outsource care, which she believes is actual work, until it's another woman doing it whom she pays peanuts. Or she could balance, be a mother with a full-time career. For the man to be deemed a responsible man in the context of the family, he has to not only work full-time, but pick up extra hours to finance whatever decision she makes. Understand this, women are complaining about having choice, the same choice they're claiming is very important, the same choice that's making them miserable. For takes like these to make sense, a couple of things have to be true. As we have examined, choice should make women happier than not having choice. That, as we have seen, is not the case. Also, are women really staying away from marriage? Don't the women of today want traditional men? If traditional men were horrible to their women, why do women claim they want traditional men who put women on pedestals? If marriage is so horrible for women, why are they still issuing ultimatums and complaining about being forever girlfriends?
You have dated me for 10 years without a ring?
Absolutely not. What do you think this is? 10 years?
A relationship?
I wouldn't even give you 4 years.
Okay,
You should have known before you approached me that I'm the one. Before you were formed in your mother's womb, you should have known I was the one.
So what if it took me...
The only one.
What if it took me like 5 to 10 years to be like, you know what, I'm ready?
5 to 10 years. It take a job 90 days to know if they want to keep me.
What if it took me some time?
It takes a job 90 days.
What if it took me some time to grow up on, and work on myself?
Don't talk to me until you grown.
So what if you...
Who the heck waits 10 years for a ring? Like, be for real right now.
I'm just asking, like, what
Who
if...
is waiting 10 years for a ring?
10 years, like, it's
After
a good
90
time.
Days, a job gives me benefits.
Why are we bringing a job into this?
Because why should it take you 10 years?
So you're telling me I should have made a decision?
Nah, bro, you should have known, like...
90 days?
I didn't even give you a year, so let's be serious.
What if... You know what? It's just 10 years.
Why do you ask me questions like this?
I just want to
You
know.
want to start something.
How long is too long to wait for your partner to propose?
I would say maybe like 4 years is a decent amount of time. 4 to 5, and then maybe anything from 5 onwards, I'd be like, where's my ring?
I feel like if they've not proposed by 4 or 5, it's embarrassing if they do after that, because you're begging for it.
Well, I'm expecting after 7.
Girl, get yourself a Hinge account. No.
After 3 years. 3 years.
We just did 3 years.
Me and my partner have been together since we were 16. Then I'm 21 now, but I feel like I'm too young to get engaged. It all depends on the age, but I would say like no more than 7 years. 2 more years, come on.
If I got asked after 7 years, I'd be like, what took you 7 years? That's embarrassing. No.
Well, we've been together 10 years. I'm not too bothered, to be honest. What about you?
I think it is more important to me, I think. The sounds of it. But
screw what other people think. Honestly, yeah, do your own thing. And do you really need to get married? I'm not saying we don't.
No. Easy. If you were dating a guy for more than 2.5 years and he doesn't propose, maybe there's talk of marriage, but he's not ready yet. That's the point when you 100% leave. Guys will know 6 months to a year right after they start dating you if they want to spend the rest of their life with you. Now let's say he does propose 7, 8, 9, 10 years into the relationship. One of two things are definitely going to happen. Either the engagement is going to be a very long one, or he will break up with you during your engagement, or you'll get married and then probably get divorced within the first few years. Usually if a guy proposes 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years into a relationship, it's usually because he sees his other friends getting married and just feels like, oh, I've been with this girl for so long that this is it. But then he panics. He has time to spare and you don't. So he just wasted 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years of your life. I know you love him, but if you've been together for 4, 5, 6 years and the topic of marriage just hasn't come up, you are not the one for him. And he is most definitely not the one for you.
I don't care if that man is your fiance. I don't care if he's your life partner of 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. If you are not married, you are just a girlfriend, according to the law. If that man passes away, you are not getting anything unless you were in his will. Because again, you were just a girlfriend. Now, if you have kids with him, it will go to your kid. You can't, that's not yours. So being someone's fiance doesn't mean like, yay, now I have the safeguards. I'm going to go and be a stay-at-home mom and have his babies. Again, you're just a girlfriend under the law. If he wants to break up with you, he's walking away with the house because his name is on the house and you're walking away with nothing. No matter how long you've been together, you're just a girlfriend under the law. So anytime someone tries to say, what's the difference between life partners and being married? Life partners under the law, you're just a girlfriend. The stakes are so much different. The stakes are much higher for a man whenever you are married, because then you're going to walk away with half the house even if his name is on it. In most states, right? Talk to your own attorney in your own state. I'm not your attorney. And the thing is like, if a man will not marry you and he leaves you as a girlfriend or a fiance for a long period of time, just remember, he's putting you at risk for so much, just like not being protected in so many ways. Because again, an example, he passes away. all that is going to go to his child. If you don't have kids, it's going to go to his siblings. It's going to go to whoever it comes in place whenever you die without a will. And if you're not his wife, it's not going to you. If he's in the hospital, you're not going to be the one making those medical decisions unless it's in writing that you're making those medical decisions. Someone who's related to him is going to be making those decisions. So that's why I say, just know, like, if a man won't marry you, he has not taken you seriously. The law doesn't take you seriously. They're going to be like, oh, girlfriend, out of here.
Why do they still want commitment from relationships if these relationships are so horrible to them? Why would you want to put yourself in a situation that oppresses you?
Hey y'all, I have some sad news. This lady just lost her boyfriend for 20 plus years. He died, and she was the girlfriend for 20 plus years. And because she wasn't a wife, she couldn't even sign off on the body to be removed. Also, the check that he's receiving monthly, she can't even get the check. It's going to the daughter, just like they had to call a daughter to remove the body. So I say this to say this. If you are with a man 10, 20, 15 years, and he has never married you, he don't like you. He's with you just because, okay? Because any man that really loves you is going to marry you. Because if something happens to them, they want to make sure that you're okay, all right? So any man who sits up and soak up your time and your years for 10, 15, 20 plus years as a girlfriend and never wanted to marry you, he doesn't like you. I repeat, because a man who really, really loves you is not going to be a boyfriend to you for 10, 15, 20 years, okay? Now this man all of a sudden died. She couldn't sign off on the body. The check that he was receiving monthly, she can't get that because it's going to his next relative, which is his daughter. Which means that all of those years that she was with him, and she gets absolutely nothing. See, that's the way he had it set up, see. He knew if something happened to him, he wanted to make sure that you got nothing, okay? Because a man who really cares about you will never set you up like that. They're going to make sure that you're taken care of if something was to happen to them. And this is what has happened in this particular situation. This man died. She was a girlfriend to him for 20 plus years, and she gets no say-so, and she gets nothing. Absolutely nothing. So you women who likes to say, oh, everybody don't want to get married. If he can live with you, he can marry you. If he's asking you to have a baby, he can marry you.
Do not be a wife to a man that is not your husband. Don't move in with no man. Don't be out here cooking and cleaning. If you really about that life, don't be out here having sex with no man that ain't your husband. Most definitely don't be out here having no babies by a man that ain't your husband. We should all know that by now. That's like a universal rule. Don't be out here helping him apply for jobs. I'm telling y'all, let his mama do that shit while you sit pretty and get treated and spoiled as his girlfriend. And technically, as a girlfriend, you're still single. As a girlfriend, what he ate today is none of your business. If he got kids already, they're none of your concern. You ain't nobody's stepmama. As a girlfriend, it's okay to compromise, but we are not making any sacrifices. If y'all together, y'all locked in, and he cooks for you, then it's cool to return a favor and show off your cooking skills. You know, that's cute. But it is not your duty to cook him breakfast, lunch, dinner, pack his work lunch, and make him snacks as a girlfriend. That's not your duty. Because trust me, with or without you, that man is going to figure out how to eat. I know as women, we like to think cooking and cleaning makes a man want us more or make a man fall in love. But what if we are talking about a man that has personal chefs and maids He don't need you to cook or clean for him. His mama taught him how to cook and clean for himself, so he ain't relying upon a woman to do that for him. Then what do you have to offer? More importantly, when we do all of these things for a man, what is he doing in return? Is he paying your bills? Is he protecting you? Is he loyal? Is he honest? Is he investing into you? Is he pouring into you? Does he accept you as you are and love you wholly as you are? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you getting what you're giving him in return? Is he even worth you doing wifey shit for? All I'm saying is, make these men pay extra, or they get the basic subscription. Stop letting them have their cake and eat it too.
As soon as a man starts talking about marriage, just don't believe him, because men aren't really like that. They don't really talk about marriage. That's how you know that they're lying first and foremost, especially if it's too soon in the relationship. If they're not doing the most, you can talk about marriage all you want as a man. We don't believe you until we got the giant rock on our hand and you've told your family. Otherwise, I'm not caring what you're talking about. That's just small talk to get where you want to get. When I have something tangible in my hand, like a big rock or, a venue set, then we'll talk about it. Otherwise, I don't believe a word that comes out of their mouth. And you shouldn't either. Just collect their money and just nod and agree with whatever they're talking about, just to make them think that you believe them, ma'am. You can't get attached to them. You got to get attached to their money only. If they're attached to you, then you don't have to worry about being attached to them. Now, do you? They're already attached to you. Sprinkle, sprinkle.
So I was realizing a lot of men actually have a misconception that in Islam, a woman is supposed to help a man if he is not able to provide. That is not true at all. Even if he is not able to provide, he has no right to even tell her to work to provide. And if, for example, you use the example that life right now is expensive, yes, life is expensive. Therefore, if you cannot afford to actually pay the bills by yourself, don't get married, or get married to somebody that is willing to accept that. But under no circumstance are you allowed to tell her to work to help you. Under no circumstance you're allowed to go engage a woman and say that I want her to work because life is expensive in Islam. If she's willing to do that, she's a good woman and that's fine and it's up to her. But she's allowed to decline.
If you are in a relationship with a man and you're going 50-50 on the bills, that is your roommate. These men be wanting women to be submissive to them, but they don't want to take the role of being a man and being a provider. And since you're going 50-50 on the bills, next caller.
Anybody trying to date me, my bills or your bills? I don't care whose car it is. You're trying to date me. You're trying to take a load off of me. So my car is your car for the bills. I don't, simple. You're trying to date me, so my bills are your bills. Period.
My bills stay paid, and you can't afford me. I don't give a fuck what you think.
That can't be true. Beacons. Here, as usual, OnlyFans. $12.99 a month. Nope, I can afford you. I'm not gonna, but I can afford you.
Check this out.
So I have zero shame in telling a man that after 3 months you are paying my bill, and if you're not, bye-bye.
Oh, you think he gonna be mad? Girl, you doing him a favor.
7 billion people in the world. If you can't do it, somebody else will. So I have no shame. I'm kind of sort of trying to find somebody to bring me food.
So why you still looking?
I talking to a guy and I said, yeah, after 3 months pay my bills, and he said no.
What you thought he was gonna say?
Like, a guy knows. Like, oh, if I really like her and she's not crazy, yeah, I would pay her bills. Maybe I threw it out there too soon.
Maybe you shouldn't throw it out.
Men don't understand the investment and the benefit and how we're trying to make sure that we're not getting played. I can't help you, men. Don't talk to us. You're not the one. We're not talking to brokies.
Girl, you sound like the brokey. You sitting there begging somebody to pay your bills. She is the exact reason why men are choosing to stay single.
Pay for respect or get respect. Watch this video.
We can go half on the bills. I don't understand that concept of going half. That makes no sense to me. There used to be a time a man took pride in taking care of his wife. And her money is her money. I would really like to see men get back in their place of being providers and having pride in that.
If a woman can find a man to get a man to do all that for him, then all right. I don't really
Facts.
care what women want. I care what my woman gonna do when she with me. I don't care if I'm a billionaire. I'm not about to pay for my respect.
Talk to him.
Pay for your submission. It's the principalities of it. If I gotta pay you to come in this house with respect, if I gotta pay you to submit to me, then I don't want your submission and I don't want your respect. I wanna fuck with somebody who gonna respect me irregardless of my money. So what you telling me is when I lose it, you ain't gonna respect me no more? You ain't gonna submit to me no more? You gonna leave me? And it's always somebody with a bigger bag. So what you saying is your respect can be bought. And if somebody around here is willing to pay you more, you gonna go respect them.
If our grandmothers were so oppressed, how comes they remained true to their husbands and hardly remarried after they passed away? If the marriages of today are as ideal as they want to claim them to be, why do modern women seem to divorce a lot? Why do they appear to be complaining way more than our grandmothers did? Why does everyone appear to be so replaceable in what is now presented as more ideal and equal marriages?
Egotist. Thinks I'm going to sit home and cry my eyes out. He's got a door to slam. Well, so have I. I can make my own living just as well as he can make his. He ought to be glad I'm working. Just because he can't stand competition, he wants me to quit. My work isn't important enough. I'm only a woman. But he, the man, is boss. He'd like me to be a slave to the house while some cutie on the paper whispers into his quarter ear. Look at this mess. The way he throws his clothes around. It wouldn't hurt His Highness a little interest in the house. I'm the one who's married, but he can act as if he were single. He wouldn't dream of wearing a wedding ring, no matter how much I tell him I like it. But I'm as good as he is. I've got a brain of my own, and I intend to make the most of my life, too. Yes, I want a home and kids, but I'm not going to be a fool like Mother, bending over a washtub all her life while Dad went around as free as air. A woman's place is in the home. Why, His Highness ought to wear side whiskers and carry a gold-headed cane. If he thinks I'm going to obey his every command, he can get right out of my life, and I mean it, right out of my life.
The third foundational thought you have to subscribe to for you to believe that marriage was slavery for women is the whole narrative of women being oppressed by men throughout history. That marriage is just another patriarchal institution that was structured by men to make sure that women kept serving men their entire lives. That marriage, in its traditional form, ensured an endless supply of what they called unpaid labor by women to men who in turn went on to pursue economic activities outside the home. That traditional marriage, in taking away choice and financial independence from the woman, ascertained that she didn't have options outside the marriage, hence she was restricted to the abusive man, which apparently most of our grandfathers were. The solution for the modern woman, which is part of the whole breaking free from the bonding chains of marriage, is her not only having a choice, but also having the financial freedom to have the ability to break a family if she felt that the man wasn't breathing right or some shit like that. Basically, it all boils down to you looking at marriage from the feminist lens. The problem with this foundational thought is, were women really oppressed?
This is ridiculous. Mike, did you realize we're really only able to tax half the population? Why, yeah, women really don't work so that they can stay home to care for the children. Keep the home? Yeah, but if we could tax women, we could make double the money. Oh, yeah! Yeah, so we should liberate women. How so? Why, we'll tell them they're oppressed. Oppressed? Oppressed. And that men are sexist pigs that are trying to hold them back from working and being independent. Why, we'll tell them they're equal to men. But they're not equal. They'll think they are, and then they'll get pissed off, protest, and start wanting to work. Then we can tax them. Why, that's great and all, but who will take care of the children with both parents working? Why, we will, in a public school system that they fund with their tax dollars, and we'll be able to teach them whatever we want. We'll be able to indoctrinate them into being obedient workers. Why, this is just wonderfully diabolical. Well, it doesn't stop there. With Mom not home all day and too tired to cook when she gets off work, we'll create an entire food system with many unnecessary chemicals and colorful packaging that will slowly give them all disorders, diseases, and sicknesses that will eventually kill them in the right amount of time so that we can control the population, all in the name of helping Mom around the kitchen. This is a brilliant plan, Harry. Brilliant! And we'll start by giving them the right to vote, because they always make the worst decisions possible. Us!
Feminism is a scam. A few years ago, I was an angry, blue-haired feminist. I once believed that male privilege was real and that I was a victim of the wage gap. Now that I understand the true motives of feminism, I know that this could not be further from the truth, and that modern-day feminism is a war on true masculinity. Before women had the right to vote, most were stay-at-home wives, which meant they weren't working jobs and couldn't be taxed. Our overlords didn't like that. Rockefeller started funding feminist campaigns in media, and as a consequence of the movement, women started entering the workforce and leaving the home. Children would then be separated from their parents and sent to Rockefeller-funded schools to be indoctrinated by the state. All of this ultimately disrupting the family unit at its core. Feminism is defined as the belief in social, economic, and political equality of the sexes. But in the West, I must ask, what rights do men have that women don't? Modern feminists are convincing women that hookup culture, using hormonal birth control, and not shaving is liberation. That toxic masculinity is prevalent and the patriarchy must be dismantled.
The early feminist icons, they weren't heroes. They were traumatized, bitter, and in some cases deeply disturbed. Simone de Beauvoir groomed underage girls and called it love. Kate Millett hallucinated and admitted psychotic breakdowns. Betty Friedman was abusive and soaked in Marxist rage. And here's a twist. Powerful men saw an opportunity not to empower women, but to manipulate them. They used feminism to strip women of modesty, destroy traditional values, and gain access to easy sex. No surprises. Even former radicals admitted it. We used women's liberation to get laid. David Horowitz, former Marxist. The sexual revolution wasn't about freedom. It was about unleashing male desire with no consequences and convincing women to call it liberation. Meanwhile, the Communist Party had their own play, infiltrated feminism, break the family, and collapse the system. Vladimir Lenin said, destroy the family, you destroy the country. So we pumped out the narrative. Men are evil, masculinity is toxic, the family is a prison. And modern feminism bought it. It stopped being about rights, and now it's about turning women into the very men they claim to hate. Be cutthroat, be cold, chase power, chase sex, forget marriage, forget motherhood. You don't need a man, you are a man. But the truth is this. It's not about independence, it's about erasure. Feminism was never about women. It was about Marxism, revolution, and the destruction of the family. That was Phyllis Schlafly. Daniel Patrick Moynihan. By removing the father, the state becomes the father. And that's exactly what happened. The government replaced husbands, daycare replaced mothers, the state became the family, and now everyone's miserable. Feminism didn't liberate women, it abandoned them. It stripped them of what made them powerful. Femininity, motherhood, grace, and handed them a cubicle, a vibrator, and a prescription for antidepressants. This isn't empowerment, it's enslavement, dressed up in slogans and stilettos. The family was never the enemy. It was the fortress, and they tore it down from the inside.
Would you say you hate men?
I hate the patriarchy. There's a lot of really good men.
Judd?
Answer the question.
Do I hate men? No.
That's a lie.
How do we destroy the family? By destroying the American patriarch. Well, this might shock you, because I also thought the same for a very, very long time, that the people who created feminism actually were nice people who wanted the best for everyone and just wanted equality. Okay, here's what really happened. So, Kate Millett, she was an American feminist, author, and artist. She is the founder of the National Organization for Women. Her sister, Mallory, was invited to one of the first meetings that established the National Organization for Women. So this is a feminist group that has been around since the start of the feminist movement, and they basically pioneered the whole movement. At this meeting, they gathered around a large table with Kate Millett, the chairperson, and she opened the meeting with the following back and forth recitation. So this is how the beginning of the meeting went. Why are we here today, she asked. To make revolution, they answered. What kind of revolution? The Cultural Revolution. How do we make cultural revolution? By destroying the American family. How do we destroy the family? By destroying the American patriarch. And how do we destroy the American patriarch? By taking away his power. And how do we do that? By destroying monogamy. And how do we destroy monogamy? By promoting promiscuity, eroticism, prostitution, and homosexuality.
Come on.
So this proceeded with a long discussion on how to advance these goals by establishing the National Organization of Women. Leader's sister says, it was clear they desired nothing less than the utter deconstruction of Western society.
Marriage is a trap. Do not do it. Nobody wants to be doing this every single day. It is a trap.
You know what the real trap is? We traded loyalty for options, respect for attention, commitment for convenience. Now women are walking all over the place saying, we don't need a man. And the man has stopped becoming the man that we dreamed of. It is actually scary what we're seeing nowadays. We say we want safety, but we reject structure. We want love, but we treat submission as if it was slavery. The truth is, marriage isn't a trap. Loneliness and bitterness is. One day you'll wake up alone and you will realize being alone, doing life alone, that's the real trap.
Can we talk about how since feminism took over and more women were shoved into the workforce, like STEM and education, those fields, particularly the medical field and particularly the education system, have become rapidly feminized. And so now we're pathologizing male behavior and we're diagnosing all these young boys with ADHD and we're medicating them like it's a disease, even though it's not. But all these women just think that it's like poor behavior, but it's really just masculine behavior. And then we're turning our young boys into more feminine boys, and now we don't have any real good men to fight the real evil men that are in the world, and that's why society is collapsing. Can we talk about that?
It's all about perceptions at this point. Like this: were women the oppressed or the protected class? Were the majority of women who opposed the suffrage movement too blinded by the patriarchy to even realize that they needed liberation from it? Were they really suffering from internalized misogyny for them to even realize that they were oppressed? The answer is simple. Feminism's idea of equality is freedom without responsibility. Instead of looking at women as the oppressed class, what happens when you see them as the protected class? A couple of examples. When they tell you that women never owned property or have access to economic opportunities outside the man or the family, they'll tell you it's because the patriarchy viewed them as less than or subhumans. That the woman was kept as financially dependent on the man as possible to make sure she stayed slaving away for the marriage. The part they conveniently forget to mention is this: owning property such as land and having bank accounts wasn't as plain and simple as it is today. Ownership came with responsibility. For example, if you owned land, you had the obligation to protect that land or ensure that the land was protected. Again, freedom of ownership came with responsibility. The fact that men were the only ones with bank accounts meant that they were the only ones who took financial risks. That is, if a family went into debt, the man was imprisoned or went into slavery to pay off that debt. Again, ownership and responsibility. You could also throw in the whole complaint surrounding women not having the right to vote as a commonly cited example of the patriarchy subordinating women. Your right to vote didn't just end there with the right to vote. If you looked at the logic behind conscription, that is, forced military service for men, just like ownership of land and the obligation to protect it, for you to have the right to vote, you had the obligation to protect that right. While most countries have a history of conscripting men, sending men to their deaths in the name of serving their country, you would be very hard-pressed to find a country that forced women into military service. A common rebuttal for this argument is that system was set up by men, hence men should be joining women in fighting it. Of course, you wouldn't expect anything different from a woman. People go to war for so many reasons, top of the list being the fight for resources and fighting for survival. That's nature setting up the system of humans constantly competing for resources, especially scarce or valuable resources. Once these resources are acquired or survival is ascertained, women don't benefit from either. Women, who believe that participating in democracy is their right, don't know democracy is an outcome of war. As it pertains to women directly contributing to war, don't women know queens were more likely to go to war than kings? Well,
contrary to popular belief that female leadership is less likely to result in war because women aren't inherently violent as men are, some sources suggest that polities ruled by queens were 27% more likely to engage in interstate conflicts, with queens' reigns being more likely to experience territorial gains. A lot of the explanations for why queens engage in more wars than kings revolve around taking accountability away from the woman. For example, it is commonly suggested that married queens are more likely to wage war than unmarried ones, with the unmarried being seen as more likely to be perceived as weak, hence being under constant attack. This explanation suggests that women aren't in control of their territories, but instead, the men around them are, leaving them as figureheads. There's also the explanation that even female leaders appoint predominantly male assistants to help with governance, hence things like a war policy being seen as a suggestion of some male foreign minister.
Apparently the explanations revolve around shifting blame away from the women.
Contrary to popular belief that female leadership is less likely to result in war because women aren't inherently violent as men are, some sources suggest that polities ruled by queens were 27% more likely to engage in interstate conflicts, with queens' reigns being more likely to experience territorial gains. A common theory floated in instances like these is territories with females as leaders are seen as easy to attack on the grounds that women make weak leaders. Unmarried queens were particularly seen as easy to attack as the married ones were most likely the aggressors. As a consequence of constantly being attacked, female leaders are always more likely to fight back in retaliation. Think of why, for example, a female police officer is more likely than a male officer to discharge their weapon. Better yet, think of why, in instances of domestic exchanges, women are more likely than men to use weapons and retaliate more violently. There's a less examined explanation that is often used to explain female aggression, which is estrogen is more aggressive, testosterone is more competitive. Most wars have been fought on grounds of territorial expansion and economic power. If queens enlisted their spouses to help them rule, in ways that kings were less inclined to do, then greater division of labor under queenly reigns may have enhanced their capacity and enabled them to pursue more aggressive war policies. As a consequence, queens may have participated more in wars in which their polity was the aggressor. The idea is that the willingness of queens to enlist their spouses in ruling may in fact have enabled queens to pursue wars more aggressively. As such, the asymmetry in how queens utilized male spouses and how kings utilized female spouses may have strengthened the relative capacity of queenly reigns, facilitating their greater participation in warfare. Married queens were the most bellicose, launching more wars than unmarried queens and kings of all types. This may be because, thanks to gender norms, women rulers tend to benefit more from marriage alliances than kings. Married queens were likelier than married kings to wage war alongside allies, often their spouses' nations. And queens frequently roped their husbands into helping rule, something that kings hardly did with their wives. Under the bargaining model of war, a state may pursue war as a costly way of signaling its military strength. Queens may have to fight more to counter the assertion that they're more peaceful. In more contemporary societies, female execs are seen to increase military spending and international conflict engagement, with a higher number of female legislators being seen to reduce the same.
Also, the white feather movement involved women shaming men who didn't participate in the world wars, and it was headed by women who claimed that their reigns would be peaceful. During World War I, in the United Kingdom, the white feather was used by women to shame men who were not in uniform. A feather would be presented to anyone who looked old enough to serve. Initially, it was a symbol of shame, but the white feather became a personal weapon for some women to get rid of men they despised. To avoid shame, thousands of men and boys enlisted, only to be sent to their deaths. However, this controversial practice received nationwide criticism.
In World War I, a single white feather carried a powerful message, and it wasn't one of peace. British women would give men white feathers if they weren't in uniform, labeling them as cowards for not fighting in the war. Even men unfit for service, or veterans on leave, were shamed with these feathers. Imagine the impact, strangers labeling you a coward, even if you couldn't fight. This movement pushed thousands to enlist, but it also created a culture of fear and pressure, even driving some men to hide from public view. So, was the white feather movement a call for courage, or a cruel judgment?
Did you know that in the film The King's Man, there is a scene where Conrad presents his father with a white feather, which was traditionally a symbol of cowardice for men who did not participate in war? This practice was not just fictional. It was a real-life phenomenon known as the Order of the White Feather. This club was established by Admiral Penrose Fitzgerald with the aim of encouraging recruitment and patriotism by publicly shaming men into military service. Although it was successful in achieving its objective, there were instances where the wrong individuals were targeted. For instance, a wounded serviceman once received a white feather while en route to a reception where he was to receive a decoration.
Sometime between 1915 and 1916, my great-grandfather was presented with a white feather, denoting him as a coward, which made him feel it necessary to join the British Army to prove otherwise. Was this white feather smear campaign supported by the government? Did other countries in the Great War have a white feather campaign? Did attitudes towards people mostly women from what I understand, change or become hostile towards the end of the war. Well, the White Feather Campaign was not officially supported by the British government, but it was brought to life by Admiral Charles Cooper Penrose Fitzgerald as a private effort. It gained momentum through press coverage and the endorsement of prominent women from both the suffragette and anti-suffragette camps. Over the following years, the campaign, it did start to cause problems for the government when more and more public servants or workers in essential industries came under pressure to enlist and leave those industries to go to war. As a response, Home Secretary Reginald McKenna issued badges reading King and Country to those who performed tasks that were essential to the war effort. It seems like the campaign still enjoyed a certain degree of support among the civilian population, while it was unpopular among soldiers, since they would sometimes be presented with white feathers while they were home on leave or after having been honorably discharged. Since Britain introduced compulsory service, conscription, of all men aged 18 to 41 in January 1916, I suspect that the Feather Campaign lost some of its momentum. Nevertheless, there are several reported instances of men still receiving feathers in mid or late 1916. Okay, this also sheds a bit of light on the question whether similar campaigns occurred in other countries during the war. Since all continental European powers relied on conscription, no such campaigns were really necessary to shame the men into volunteering. The White Feather Campaign did, however, spread to the British dominions like Canada and Australia.
Think of how women feel when it comes to abortion restrictions, and now picture the same women being forced into military service. When they tell you that women never had the right to open a bank account except through their husband or father, they follow it with the argument that women took their husbands' names after marriage as a sign of ownership of the woman, while conveniently glossing over the fact that the perception of women as children involved women not being accountable for anything. That just like how a parent would shoulder most of the responsibility when their juvenile broke the law, women's fathers and husbands would be held responsible for atrocities committed by women, including being imprisoned when women broke the law. That, they conveniently forget to mention. Even today, if a woman breaks the law with a man in a multiple offender crime, the woman is largely seen as the unwilling participant who was forced into the whole thing by the man. The woman is more likely to get a plea bargain and favorable bail terms, as the patriarchy places all blame on the man.
More breaking news now. The woman indicted for misleading police to help her boyfriend, accused of killing 2 people near the Howes St. Patty's Parade, has decided to plead guilty in the case. But she will not have to serve any jail time for her deception. Investigative reporter CJ LeMaster has exclusive new details tonight. CJ?
Howard, we're talking about Jenny Lukens. A grand jury indicted her last year on 1 count of hindering prosecution. That's because evidence suggested she was trying to help her boyfriend Jordan Cummins after he killed 2 people. Now, Lukens admitted to everything this week when she took a plea deal. She says she intentionally misled police to help Cummins avoid conviction. Court documents obtained exclusively by 3 on Your Side show she admitted to leaving the scene before police arrived and embellished Cummins' story to investigators, hoping it would help him beat those charges. The jury, of course, saw right through that. In June, that jury found Cummins guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder for killing 27-year-old Joshua Spann and 23-year-old Auden Simpkins. That shooting took place a few blocks from the parade route for the Howes St. Patty's Parade in March 2023. Now, we can tell you, just because we've been covering this story, Cummins also violated the terms of his bond before trial began because he kept maintaining contact with Lukens against the court's instructions. Lukens' deal means she won't serve any jail time, agreeing to a 14-year sentence with 10 of those suspended. According to a prosecutor familiar with the case, she'll serve the remaining 4 years on house arrest. Courtney Ann?
A lot of studies that examine gender differences in criminal justice systems focus on the start and the end, that is, criminality and sentencing. However, the devil is in the details. For instance, when controlling for all legal relevant factors, or holding them constant, female offenders are 28% less likely to be arrested for kidnapping, 48% less likely to be arrested for forcible fondling, 9% less likely for simple assault, and 27% less likely to be arrested for intimidation. Legal factors massively contribute to the decision-making processes in legal systems, but when controlling for all these factors, female defendants are 37% less likely to be detained awaiting trial compared to male defendants. Females are advantaged at every stage of the pre-trial release. Women are also less likely to receive preventive detention, have financial conditions placed on their release, have high or strict bail terms, and be held on bail, thereby evidencing the general leniency towards women when it comes to pre-trial detention. The impact of sex in legal systems is not limited to offenders, but it also includes victims. The offender is more likely to be arrested if the victim is female. In instances where a female is the victim of the crime in question, the odds of arrest are elevated by 69% for kidnapping, 26% for forcible fondling, 13% for aggravated assault, 25% for simple assault, and by 15% for intimidation. Let's talk plea bargaining for a moment. When a couple is involved in a crime, getting the husband to plead guilty is often presented as the most plausible course of action, often referred to as the drug dealer pattern.
New plea deal reveals the longtime girlfriend of convicted killer Raymond Moody admits to lying to federal investigators about her involvement in the disappearance of Brittany Drexel.
Now, this comes years after the 15th Circuit Solicitor's Office indicated that the Georgetown resident had more to do with the case, but they weren't able to prove it at the time.
Well, sure, Ann Roth, this is the first time that Angel Voss is facing criminal charges and now a conviction in the case. In March, prosecutors charged Angel Voss with 3 counts of lying to federal investigators, 2 of which she's now pled guilty to. Voss did sign a cooperation agreement with the state promising to be 100% truthful before her longtime boyfriend Raymond Moody admitted to the 2009 abduction, rape, and murder of 17-year-old Brittany Drexel. Drexel went missing on a spring break trip in Myrtle Beach, prompting national attention, leading to numerous searches, rumors, and false accusations. These charges against Voss stem from an interview with federal agents that took place about 5 months prior to Moody's public confession. Voss admits to lying about where she was headed when she left Moody alone with the teen the night of her death, and how willing Drexel was to join the pair to do drugs, which prosecutors believe she was actually taken under, quote, false pretenses. A third charge accused Voss of lying about what happened to Drexel's phone, which prosecutors say she took and dumped that night. As part of this plea deal, that charge is now dropped. She faces up to 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine per each charge that she's pled guilty to. Her sentencing date has been set for Monday, August 12th.
When they both reoffend, the man has a richer criminal history, a phenomenon that is used to validate handing men heavier sentences. The drug dealer pattern and the plea bargain as approaches to protecting women are better presented by the girlfriend theory. According to the theory, women are more likely to be perceived as minor players, perhaps accessories to their male romantic partners in instances of group offenses. Prosecutors, judges, and other court actors are more likely to view women as less dangerous, less morally culpable, and more useful resources in gathering testimonies, while men are perceived and presented as more dangerous and likely to reoffend or violate probation terms. In cases involving couples, almost always, women are perceived and presented as innocent followers who were manipulated by their romantic partners. The girlfriend theory is supported by the fact that multi-defendant cases show the largest gender disparities in sentencing outcomes and differences in sentencing adjustments based on an individual's role in the offense. The gender gap in multi-defendant cases is 66%, compared to 51% in single-defendant cases. 14% of unexplained sentencing-related gender gaps in non-drug cases and 20% in drug cases is explained by role adjustments.
Voss will learn her fate for her admitted involvement in the Brittany Drexel murder case. In 2022, Voss's boyfriend Raymond Moody admitted to the 2009 abduction, rape, and murder of Drexel. The teen was on spring break in Myrtle Beach when she went missing. Last month, Voss pleaded guilty to 2 counts of lying to federal investigators as part of a plea deal, admitting that she wasn't truthful about where she was headed when she left Moody alone with Drexel the night of her death, and how willing Drexel was to do drugs. Voss will appear in court at 3 p.m. for sentencing. She faces up to 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine per charge.
As mentioned, feminism's idea of equality is freedom without responsibility. For example, women today have the right to vote and own property, but the responsibility of protecting those rights is still shouldered by men. For the modern feminist presentation of equality, women having the right to vote and owning property, including bank accounts, ends there. The freedom and privileges without the accompanying burdens, that's why they claim oppression, and that's what they call equality. How democratic do you think Ukraine is today? How many Ukrainian feminists stayed behind when President Zelensky issued the executive order for all military-age men to remain and fight for their country in the name of equality? Once the war is done, and it's time to rebuild democracy, the feminists who are now enjoying their hot girl summer in countries like Poland, Sweden, and Finland because they are NATO members and would never be attacked by the Russians will come back more entitled than ever, talking about equality and wanting to be part of leadership, you know, the feminist style.
Bloodied, staggering out of their homes. And this is what remains of another family's apartment, a baby stroller among the debris. We travel to this Ukrainian military installation near the eastern port city of Mariupol.
This radar station took a direct hit. Russia is picking off Ukraine's military facilities one after another. But Ukrainian troops are fighting back, and Russia is also suffering losses here.
Ukraine says it's destroyed some Russian tanks using American-supplied missiles, that this is a damaged Russian helicopter, and that it has captured some Russian soldiers. On day one, the army has been holding strong, but they're being pushed to the limit by Russia's full-scale invasion with attacks across Ukraine, which is the size of Texas, from areas near those pro-Russian enclaves in the east to the capital Kiev in the west, even capturing the still radioactive Chernobyl nuclear reactor. It all began from a desk before dawn, when Russian President Vladimir Putin declared a special military operation on Russian television. Russia cannot feel safe, develop, and exist with a constant threat emanating from the territory of modern Ukraine, he said, describing the government in Kiev as a junta of neo-Nazis determined to build nuclear weapons. It was a split-screen moment, Putin announcing his assault as his actions were slammed at the UN Security Council, Ukraine's ambassador blasting Russia's representative.
The Russian president declared a war on the record. Should I play the video of your president? There is no purgatory for war criminals. They go straight to hell.
Later, after Putin stopped speaking on cue, the missiles and airstrikes began. Russian tanks rolling across the border from Belarus in the north and Crimea in the south. For Ukrainians, the choice was to hide in deep Soviet-era subways built long ago to shelter Ukrainians from an American attack, or to run if they could get through the traffic heading out of Kiev, or to ride it out, stocking up on food and cash.
How are you feeling? This is your mother.
I'm trying to keep my children calm. Putin is not helping. We are Ukraine, she says.
Putin says he's doing Ukrainians a favor by trying to get rid of their Nazi fascist government. What do you think about that?
He isn't protecting us, she says. It would be better if he sat there in Russia and did not touch anyone or anything here. Ukraine is fighting for its right to exist as a sovereign country and against a man who says Ukraine belongs to him.
As Russia steps up its attacks, Ukraine says it will suspend consular services for military-aged men abroad. Authorities now want to ensure that men aged between 18 and 60 living abroad return home. But many Ukrainians say they are being unfairly targeted.
Confused and anxious, hundreds line up at the Ukrainian passport office in Prague, hoping to pick up their documents before Ukraine's new mobilization law comes into force. It requires all men of military age who want to renew official paperwork to return home, where they could be drafted.
There's no way I'm going to a recruitment center in Ukraine. They won't let me come back to the Czech Republic. I have an official and permanent residence here. I pay taxes here and do things the proper way. But now I have a problem.
Similar scenes in Warsaw. With people frustrated, the passport office is temporarily closed.
They don't ask us why we went abroad. I went abroad legally. The law has not yet come into force, but passport office employees seem to be applying it already.
Ukraine banned draft-age men from leaving the country after Russia's invasion in 2022. Authorities say they are only targeting those who are legally evading the draft.
It's fair
towards Ukrainian men who stayed in Ukraine and who work in the Ukrainian economy and who fight in the Ukrainian army. I think it will be fair towards them if men from abroad return to Ukraine and stand by them, by each other, in defending their country, the country that gave them everything.
Russia currently occupies around a fifth of Ukrainian territory. Tens of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers have been killed or wounded in the 2 years since the full-scale invasion began.
Switzerland, they mobilized their army in August 1914. But there were ups and downs over the years in terms of men seeing active service, depending on the current threat of an invasion. For example, 200,547 men were mobilized right after the outbreak of the war. But when it became clear that both Germany and France would respect Swiss neutrality, more and more of them were sent home. Late 1916 did indeed bring renewed concerns about an invasion, though from Germany and not from France.
It is common for you to hear that women aren't women today because men aren't men. That women aren't traditional anymore because men aren't, like men were the first ones to change in the last 60 years or so. If it appears that women are kinda confused about where they stand on marriage, like do they want it or it's just patriarchal, well guess what? They're not. As mentioned before, part of seeing marriage as slavery for women is the perception that everything the woman does in the family is sacrifice, everything the man does is his job. Women aren't conflicted about marriage, they just want the benefits of marriage without the responsibilities that come with it. You realize women, especially feminists, in fighting the patriarchy, have never touched alimony and child support, both of which are products of the patriarchy? You realize feminists never supported divorce law reforms until they were guaranteed marital property.
We fought the public accommodations fight 10 years ago with the blacks. Are we going to have to start all over again with women?
How about, would you like a sign up there that said blacks only or whites only?
It's the same principle, sir. Women are persons. Women are people.
Persons, and we want to be able to come and go through it, and we don't want to be intimidated by signs that say men's buffet.
I have no intentions of taking the sign down or changing the sign. If you can get a court order to take it down, fine.
You have no intention of changing your policy of segregated facilities. Is that correct, sir?
If you women are that hard up for a glass of beer, I'll be glad to serve you at your bar.
You know, sometimes the events of decades can crystallize in a moment, and it seems as if overnight there's this historic change. When you look back at it, you say, oh, well, this was building up, and for years there was this person and this person and this group, and they were networking and this, and then there was a shift. The women's movement had many origins. In part, it owes its renewed birth to the civil rights movement, because there was then a lesson for the women of America of how blacks at that time were taking their life into their own hands.
Is my bacon ready yet? 20 past 8. Some more toast, Teen. Hey, Teen, why don't you get cracking on a thorough fall house cleaning campaign around here? Get the floors waxed, get the windows washed, get this place looking as if civilized people are in residence, Gee, that's a little light, isn't it?
I'm sorry, I hurried it.
Sweetie, have a little more damson and plum preserves, please.
Years ago last year, women got to vote, I hear, but we just sat on dusty shelves because we never helped ourselves. Married men can still be free, but a woman, what is she? A servant with no pay for life, just so she can stay a wife. A status symbol with a ring. Tell me what that's gonna bring. A legal right to bear his
Surprisingly, women's advocacy groups in the United States didn't exactly support no-fault divorce. Feminists' interest groups didn't particularly appear to be interested in discouraging the implementation of unilateral divorce reforms. For instance, Wisconsin feminists initially supported unilateral divorce laws initiatives of around 1975. After learning that unilateral divorce would disadvantage women compared to dissolution under fault-based systems, they sought to impede unilateral divorce. Feminists sought to introduce alternative divorce reforms that would benefit women financially. Similarly, the New York chapter of the National Organization for Women opposed unilateral divorce reforms, although it was supported by the Women's Bar Association. A common recurrent theme as it pertains to feminist support of divorce reforms is pronouncements on marital property. Otherwise put, depending on the presence or absence of marital property changes, which influence divorced women's welfare, especially materially, women's advocacy groups lobbied for and against the liberalization of divorce laws.
Most women are raised to believe their true role is that of wife and mother, but some women are questioning whether this is so. Is this the true role? Do I have to get married? Do I have to get pregnant? Do I have a choice? Birth control, especially the pill, provided women the choice. At this clinic in Washington, and clinics like it all over the country, and privately in doctors' offices, millions of women started taking the pill, and they had unprecedented freedom from unwanted pregnancies. But there were questions about the pill's safety, and in Senate hearings on it in January, there were many who said that the pill can be dangerous. Of the first 18 people to testify at the hearings, none were women, but women went anyway.
You are not going to sit quietly any longer. You are murdering us for your profit and convenience. Who is going to pay the medical bills when a woman develops cancer of the breast or cancer of the uterus? Are you going to give us free medical care?
No, we want to have some control over the decisions that affect our lives.
All right, will you please sit down or be removed from the...
No, we aren't going to sit down. Why don't you give us some solid answers to our questions? You're going to take women, you're going to drag women out of this hearing whose lives are at stake. That's a fine way to run something. You cannot pull us out of here. These questions affect our lives.
The 1960s and 70s ushered in big changes for women in America. From family life to the workplace to reproductive rights, there was a charge for change, known as the women's rights movement. But long before then came the fight for women's suffrage, which granted American women the right to vote in 1919. That movement, led by Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, paved the way for the second wave of feminism in the 60s and 70s. In 1960, family planning was transformed as the FDA approved birth control pills for contraceptive use, opening a new chapter for the career women. About 3 years later, at the urging of Esther Peterson, President John F. Kennedy signed the Equal Pay Act. Also that year, Betty Friedan published The Feminine Mystique, which documented what she saw as the oppression of middle-class women.
We're all housewives when in the beginning and in the end, although we have to be much more than that in the world now.
By the 1970s, women of all ages, races, and backgrounds had joined in the fight for equality. Gloria Steinem campaigned for a constitutional amendment to guarantee equal rights for women. And in 1972, Congress passed the Equal Rights Amendment.
Hey, what do you say? Ratify the ERA.
Because there was this big rush to get divorced, and frankly, primarily by women who were caught in bad marriages prior to no fault. They suddenly wanted to go through this process, but they found that the laws had been written to address the old patriarchal system where the man was the king of the castle. And so many of the laws that pertain to the patriarchal system no longer pertain to the women's lib movement and women having independence. And so the legislatures, under the lobbying from the National Organization of Women and other groups that advocated, I think, very favorable changes to the legislation, logical and good-spirited changes to the legislation, kept writing in all these new laws to put in these new protections, but as in many cases, the law of unintended consequences set in. And so a lot of these laws that were written in the 60s, 70s, and 80s were a good idea at the time, no longer necessary, and create much of the confusion and animosity that we see today in family court.
Again, the benefit of marriage without responsibility. The modern woman wants a marriage that places her at the center of everything. That's why the only traditional thing they seem to know, embrace, and constantly remind men is provision.
Men don't know how to respect women anymore, and, they're not gentlemen anymore.
Most women have evolved past like the typical gender stereotype of women staying at home, cooking, cleaning, making sandwiches, and having babies. The way that women dress is a lot less conservative. The way that they act is a lot less conservative. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But if women have evolved past that, then that probably means that men have evolved from where they were originally as well. And women wanting to evolve past the old gender role, whatever, but wanting a man who didn't is a weird thing to me. Not all of them, obviously. There are people that believe in traditional gender roles, that women should, whatever, and that men should also whatever. Nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with either side. But if you're a woman that evolved past being conservative with the way that you dress and the way that you act and what your role in a relationship would be, but you want a man who didn't evolve past that, that's weird. It makes way more sense for women that have evolved past it to evolve with men that have evolved past it, and for them to be together, and then people who believe in traditional gender roles to also be together. You don't get to have your cake and eat it too.
The shit that really be blowing me with y'all hoes is the only thing y'all know that's traditional is providing. But y'all don't know none of the traditions of a woman. Bitch, don't you know that the reason why you even wear white and getting married is because you supposed to been a virgin to get married? No, but you got 3 kids, you dirty bitch.
Just like the way that like traditional dating has like faded out, it's like now we have to make it like unnormal for like a guy to like do the things that they like did before.
What were the things women did before?
Exactly, I don't know. I mean,
you said you were desirous of traditional courtship, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and do you know what that looks like from a guy's end?
What do you mean?
Okay, so asking you out, taking initiative,
That's like
planning the date. Wednesday, 7 p.m., I'm taking you here, picking you up. What were the women's traditional roles?
I don't even know. That's actually a hard question. I don't even know. Like, it's like, I feel like in the beginning stages of dating, like, there's not a lot, like, a girl can do just besides, like, I mean, really just, like, show up.
They believe traditional masculine gender roles are essential, while traditional feminine roles amount to oppression. A woman wanting a provider and a protector knows her worth. A man wanting a non-promiscuous homemaker is just bigoted. They believe that everything our grandmothers did for provision from their husbands was oppression and slavery, hence they shouldn't be doing it, but they want what our grandfathers did. When they tell men that they're glorifying their grandmother's suffering in the name of a working marriage, they forget that them wanting provider men because that's what men used to do, amounts to glorifying our grandfathers slaving away for the family, literally working themselves to an early grave. Then they come and tell us how our grandmothers were happier, which is why they had a higher life expectancy. Again, the benefits of marriage without the responsibility. This is why they push for marriage through ultimatums, presenting themselves as the crusaders of commitment, while also filing for divorce in equal numbers. Like their understanding of commitment is one-sided, based on convenience that suits their interests and time-bound. If they're not filing for divorce, they're asking for breaks in their marriages to think things through, which is basically exploring their sexual interests outside the marriage while still enjoying the benefits of being married. One leg in the marriage, enjoying the security and stability that comes with it, the other leg outside, living life like they were single again. You see, women are very interesting. There are threads like these online claiming that women often tend to be happier than men as they approach end of life, that men, more often than not, end up dying alone. These claims often accompany sources supporting women's greater life expectancy compared to men. Do you think these statistics will be replicated in 100 years? Do you think the women of today will be happier than men as they approach the end of life? Women will claim that they are happier than men as they age, even go as far as citing statistics of men dying alone, then go ahead and denounce everything that gave them these statistics and claims as oppression, while embracing everything that made men miserable as empowerment. These are women for you. These are the same ones telling us that women aren't women anymore because men aren't men anymore. These are the same ones telling men that they're afraid of commitment, while demonizing the same commitment that men are supposedly afraid of.
I would love to be a stay-at-home mom. I would love to be a homemaker and a wife. I would love to be able to live on a homestead and go milk my cow and take the eggs out of the chicken coop and have one baby in the belly and on my hip and another toddler coming behind me. That's like my dream, but I can't fucking do that because the way the economy is set up is I'm forced to work. I'm forced to get an education, a higher education, a college degree in order to make enough money that I can be financially independent and afford my own home or my own rent or my own gas or my own groceries, my own insurance. And it's extremely difficult difficult to do that. And it's very isolating as a woman when you have to do all of that all on your own, and you can't find somebody that you can outsource some of those chores and financial responsibilities like you would with a spouse. So no, being a single working woman absolutely sucks. It's the worst thing ever. I hate it. I would go back to the 1950s in a second just so I wouldn't have to deal with this shit.
You're talking about a traditional nuclear family where the woman doesn't work in a married household with kids.
And statistically, that was the case.
You're a single woman who isn't married with kids yet.
So I'm for it because of the way it is. Most women were married by the age of 21 up until the 1970s.
I think it's a woman's choice. Before that, it was societally encouraged to marry young.
Yeah, and it was better for women mental health-wise long-term to be able to go into that long-term committed relationship and have the established family instead of being forced to slave away for a corporation that doesn't like you, doesn't care about you, makes you sit under fluorescent lights for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. You get a lunch break, you get health insurance, but do you have somebody who loves you staring at you every day like your child? No, it's horrible.
When I find myself in times of trouble.